Hey guys, Dave from Nerdarchy, for nerds, by nerds, hang out with these nerds.
Nathan Nerdark.
Nerdark is Ted.
And our discussion of battle mages continues. This time we're slinging spells.
Hey guys, jump down to the description below where you can sign up for Nerdarchy the newsletter. It's a great way to get gaming tips as well as learn how to game with us.
Battle mage, what does it mean to be a battle mage?
So we've talked about this in several other videos, and today we're going to dive into spells.
When you're a battle mage, I really feel like there's only two paths to go. You're the war wizard or you're a duelist.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Which means you're either slamming a whole bunch of different spells, usually with area effects, or you're one-on-one.
Yeah, well, like the war wizard, he's going to focus more on the area of effect spells and the control spells, like the big boomy spells, fireball, lightning bolt, meteor swarm. The spells as a wizard you live to get to 5th level for, pretty much.
I've made it.
And then the other ones, they're just going to control the battlefield. So your cloud spells, stinking cloud kill, your wall spells. So there's a ton of them, and that's just and there's also a bunch of other spells as well. But they really are about just sectioning off the battlefield and controlling where the enemy can go.
Mm-hmm. But there are so many spells and so few actions to cast them with.
That is true.
So action economy is incredibly important. And as a wizard or as a mage in this edition, you don't get a lot of spells that are going to really use that action economy well.
Yeah, because you've got your bonus action, your reaction, and then we say that, and you're in regular action, and then you're going to have what you can concentrate on in a round. And then you have whatever's free-floating that just always exists, which there's very few that do.
Now, I feel like the Duelist Wizard is a little bit better when it comes to action economy because he's going to rely on more reaction spells. He's got like two jobs, really, right? If he finds himself actually on the battlefield, well, he's the mage killer, right? He's going to hunt down the enemy spellcasters and shut them down. Mm-hmm. Whether it's using his reaction for counter spell, casting dispel magic on the field to undo whatever he's done, or using shield spell to fend off those incoming magic missiles,
or absorb elements to mitigate the damage and be able to send it back.
Especially if he's getting targeted with the other mages are targeting him.
Yeah, and so I feel like that kind of mage is going to be very, very specific towards that area of spells. Where maybe if you're a war wizard, you really just want to throw big spells around, and you're not really going to worry about it as much. Right. You might balance it out, but when you're using your spell slots, you want to use fireball, meteor swarm,
damage those things until they stop moving.
Yes.
Bonus action spells, you really don't have a whole lot that you can use as your bonus action. You pretty much have Expeditious Retreat and Misty Step.
Yes, and both of them basically save the same function. They're from spell levels, so one is slightly better than the other, but they're about moving around the battlefield.
It's about mobility, and they can get you out of trouble or closer to the danger, so that you can get those spells flying.
Yeah, the other way of using your bonus action, you can cast a spell that then uses your bonus action to direct it.
On subsequent turns.
Yeah,
so you got Melf's Minute Meteors.
Yeah, Mortar Cannon Sword. And,
Flaming Sphere, a low-level spell, which is also, not only does it give you a use for your bonus action, it gives you some battlefield control and some damage. So it's fairly versatile for putting it out there.
Yeah, and with versatility, there's also Big B's hand gives you a lot of different options, and you can use your bonus action to direct it. So.
Nice. Yeah, so these are the spells that and unfortunately most of them are concentration, so once you're going to be able to use that, and then you're going to have to go to your instantaneous spells.
Spell layering is another important example or important thing to mention for a battle mage.
It is the hardest thing to do in 5th edition. It used to actually be very commonplace in previous editions. Like that's what you lived for when you gained those levels, is being able to put on Stone Skin and Mirror Image and every other spell you could think of. Now there's very specific spells that this works with.
Yeah, I know this guy in previous editions is like, all right, I disappear 7 rounds later. I'm like, all right, I'm ready.
Yeah, if I had 10 rounds to prepare in previous editions, it was a good time.
Now there's not as many spells you can cast. There's only a handful, like Fire Shield,
Mage Armor,
Mirror Image. You found a really good one.
There's the Armor of Agath's, which is nice because it's pumpable. You can make it at higher levels. and it's like a poor man's fire shield at low level.
Yeah, so as long as if you have a couple rounds and you can slap all those on, like the fight's coming, then you're going to be ready. Mage armor you probably have on because it lasts 8 hours, so that's not really a big deal. But some of the other ones have they don't last quite as long, so you like 10 minutes or so, or an hour as the case may be. So you might have to figure out the best order to cast them in. But once you go in, then you're fully prepared.
Yes, and it's nice because then you can choose to I can attach a concentration spell to this combat and
be even better.
Yeah, and be even better, and especially if it's a concentration spell that's going to use your bonus action.
The only thing to go into is what kind of specific spells would you go for if you were, say, a duelist, or if you were the more war wizard battlefield controller.
Well, for duelists, you've got at really high levels. You have the power words, which if you kind of know something about your enemy, especially if their hit point total for the power word kill spell, then you're going to be able to slam that on them. And disintegrate's another.
Yeah, I was going to say disintegrate. If it doesn't just outright take them out, well, that'll get you closer to being able to use power word kill.
Yeah,
that's true. Finger of Death is always a favorite of mine for the individual spells.
Right.
Because if you do manage to take them out with it, then you get a zombie. You can send him off against his allies.
And there's lower level spells that do like Melf's Acid Arrow does like a nice continuous damage over a few rounds. So there's those damage dealers at low levels that are good for. And I mean, I know it's obvious, but if you're a war wizard and you're a duelist, make sure you got a cantrip that's gonna be significant. Like don't take something that's gonna. I would take something that's longer range. So like the firebolt or something like that.
Well,
or the Ray of Frost gives you good control. So
that's true. I mean, you do have a lot of options between the Player's Handbook and the Player's Guide to Elemental Evil Companion. So you do get a lot of cantrips, and you get all the different types. Another low-level, first-level spell worth mentioning is Chromatic Orb.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
Just because it does an okay amount of damage, it's an attack spell. Sometimes there's reasons that you might want to use that, but more importantly, you can be any energy type you need it to be.
Right, it's on the fly. This guy's resistant to that. I found out last round. Let's try this one. Let's try that one.
It's super effective if you happen to be, like we've talked about in previous videos, a themed wizard where you're doing a specific type of damage all the time. Well, it can be that type of damage, or it can be something else if you need it to. And sometimes you just need it to be something else.
So if we get into the control stuff, then placing walls which will damage or limit mobility on the battlefield, or Avard's Black Tentacles, which for me, especially as a DM, I kind of feel it's one of those nice creepy things to throw out there. It can cause some damage. It can make people have to move around the situation.
Well, there's certain spells like Edward's Black Tentacles and even Cloud of Daggers where they're super useful in the sense that they can set things up. One, you control the battlefield, but two, then as a wizard or spellcaster, you can then cast something else that's maybe instantaneous, like I don't know, Thunderwave, and then you can try and push them into these effects.
Right.
Or if you have other characters in your party or other players in your party that have access to some kind of control effects where they can move people around the battlefield. Again, it gives them the opportunity, or even just the fighter running up and pushing them into the tentacles or the Cloud of Daggers, or whatever. It's kind of thematic when the fighter just runs up and grabs a goblin and holds his face to the Cloud of Daggers and grates it off.
And when you're not controlling the battlefield, you can control the people. So with a mass suggestion, you can shut down a lot of things, or a hypnotic pattern.
Yeah, even in my game, Ryan Sorcerer has used twin suggestion many times and cast it at a higher level. So for 8 hours, they're doing whatever. They're picking daisies, or they're really. By the time you've moved on, it's not really probably going to be a problem. Maybe not, or maybe they've gotten themselves in trouble. But either way, for this foreseeable combat, they're out of it.
Right. But I mean, you can also go with shape change or polymorph, because it's something that you have the ability to either alter someone else into something that.
Well, you know what? That brings me to one of the things. Well, we just touched on it briefly, but spell combos. Polymorph with any of the power words is brutal. It's just, and or if they happen to be a wild shape druid, you don't have your hit points anymore. You have the hit points of whatever you're changed into.
It's a nasty combo, yeah.
Yeah, and power word kill. Well, guess what? The effect is if that spell reduces them to 0, they die. It's so.
Well, for specifically power word kill or disintegrate.
Well, yeah, or disintegrate or stun. There's definitely certain spells where if you combo them together, you're just going to take an enemy out really easy.
Yeah, and for that disintegrate spell, just don't turn them into a squirrel. Turn them into like a cow or something with a bad deck save.
Yeah. At first, I'm like, "What are you going? You just got to hit them. They're going to be done." And you're like, "No."
Well, power would kill. It's just you don't have 100 points.
Turtle. Just turn them into a turtle.
Turtle. Eat that. Disintegrate.
Yeah.
And then
flip it on its back first.
But polymorph and shape change also have the ability to be used offensively.
Yes.
So you could become something that they're not able to handle. And I mean, you saw way back in the day, was it Sword in the Stone when they had the mage duel?
or also in the Dresden Files, there was also a mage duel where it consisted of them, basically shape changing the whole time.
Right.
Which was really cool. But it does bring up kind of a funny story from my game where we have a sorcerer that has polymorph and he can do twin spell. And Ryan had asked Anthony Amato from Cardboard Fortress and Nicole Klein, it's like, hey, I can turn you guys into T-Rexes if you want in the battle. And Anthony's reply was, well, if you ask Anthony, the player, I'm going to say, hell no, that's inferior to what I can actually do as my character. But he's like, but if you in game you ask Goblo, he's going to be my Goblo character. He's going to be like, fuck yeah, I want to be a T-Rex.
So it's amusing.
And then what everyone thinks of as the quintessential war wizard is the person that's just laying down the damage. So you've got your low level like fireball when you get that.
Low level is fireball.
Well, before then you have flaming sphere does some area of effect damage. If you wiggle it around, you've got thunder wave and burning hands.
Well, as a battle mage or a war wizard, you really want to think about utility in your spell list as well. Whether a sorcerer, it's even harder because you have less choices. A wizard, slightly better. But I find there's times when my go-to is Magic Missile, even as a higher level spell, just because so little things are resistant to force damage. And if I'm rolling crappy that night, I don't want to pick something that I have to roll, and I just want to. I've actually action surged and done a double Magic Missile casting at the highest level spell I've had. So I just drop. It's never that much damage, but it's a bunch of D4s you get to drop and feel slightly impressive.
It's that +1 that really makes a difference.
I cast magic
because you're at least doing 2 per.
Yeah, you can't do less than 2, and there's no saving throw. They can't. You
don't miss. Yep.
And very few things are resistance to force damage. Again, that goes right along with the chromatic orb. Okay, do you need options? Well, that's a good spell to have. Do you have something that gives you advantage when you're making attacks? And the other thing too is if you're making attack rolls as a wizard, that means you have the ability to crit. So that's something you don't get if they have to make a saving throw or auto damage or whatever. So it is something to consider too. Has something come up that actually gives you advantage? Well, maybe you might want to consider using one of those spells that you have to make an attack roll on because you could potentially get a crit.
Right.
Or at least your chances are better. Anyway.
Critting with spells is a lot of fun.
Critting with anything's a lot of fun, but it's very satisfying because the wizard gets to do it so much fewer times than anybody else in the game.
Yeah, it's very infrequent. I mean, as my spellcasters, I rarely roll dice for spells.
It's just you do an effect and they're saving throws.
Mm-hmm. Also, honorable mention if you're playing more of a Gish type battle mage, is the Skag has quite a few spells that are bonus actions to cast, or as part of the action, it's actually a weapon attack. Mm-hmm. You have Booming Blade, there's like Green Flame Blade, Lightning Lash or something like that, which isn't really a weapon attack, but it's similar.
It goes with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so there's definitely those kind of spells as well that can be useful. And again, they're cantrips, so if you've already cast your spell, they come in handy when it comes to action economy because you get to use them again.
Right.
No discussion about battle mages, in my opinion, would be complete without at least mentioning the haste spell.
Haste is one of those fantastic spells. There's never a bad time to be hasted.
Yeah, I mean, the only downside to haste is a concentration spell, so that can be tough. But if you're playing more of a Gish character and you might be mixing it up a little bit, you know, having the extra attack after you cast spells not bad at all. Especially if you happen to be a fighter and have action surge, you could literally take 2 attacks and make 2 cast two spells in the same round. So it's not a bad deal at all. It's going to up your armor class. It's going to give you a benefit to dexterity saving throws. You're going to be more mobile on the battlefield. And if you happen to be a sorcerer, it's a great buff spell to use on your allies. You got a barbarian and a paladin in your party. Twin haste on them.
There you go.
Want to be better? Just add haste.
Yeah, pretty much. What is your go-to maneuver for a battle mage? What spells do you like to use? What would you absolutely never think about not including in your spell book? Let us know down in the comments below. While you're at it, like, share, and subscribe.
You can also check out the articles over at nerdarchy.com.
While you're there, you can also check out the awesome store.
So until next time,
stay nerdy.